What's good, football fans? Back at you once again with another video. And with the NFL draft just a little under a month away, I wanted to come on the channel and start talking about possible prospects, guys maybe they might be interested in. So I put out a poll on the channel trying to gauge, what everybody wanted to see. And the overwhelming winner of that poll was Joey Porter Jr. And for older heads, you'll remember who his dad was, linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the NFL bloodline is there, and I'm interested to see, what he's got on the field. I mean, the kid's 6'2", like 87, 88 pounds. And without further ado, I just want to hop right in. No matter what, when you're looking at defensive backs, you want to know how well can these guys defend the pass. And this guy right here is right up there with the best of them. He, in my opinion, has some elite skills. As you see right there, he can put himself, his hands, his body, anything he needs to in between the ball and the receiver at a high level. Detractors of this guy, people that maybe don't like what he brings or don't like the game that he plays or whatever, will always point out how many interceptions he has versus, whatever the case may be, versus another player, or versus what they want to see out of a player, quote unquote. Me personally, I think with ball skills, like that, interceptions eventually are going to come. I mean, when you're looking at a kid that only got targeted 30 times last season, 30 times that he was targeted, there's a reason why quarterbacks are staying away from him. Another big thing that stands out for me that I always want to see out of guys, especially defensive backs that they bring in, bigger or smaller, I want to see their ability to make open field tackles. And if they can't open field tackle, I'm going to look at that as a strike against them from the onset. Like what good are they if they can't make an open field tackle? I mean, we've seen several players come in and then just whiff at this particular situation, and I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. This kid, though, appears to have that as one of his top abilities. And I like how, he comes in, and I've never really seen that technique there with the one-arm scoop there, but hey, it works. Unfortunately, that Thompson kid from Purdue there, he got hurt on the play, which I don't like to see. But what I do like to see is Porter's ability to be able, first of all, he didn't fall for the jukes. I know a lot of people want to talk about his, he doesn't have the top-end speed or whatnot that, some corners have or some DBs might have. The taller the guys go, they tend to slow down a little bit. Everybody always talks about slow feet always cause issues, but I can tell you this kid has got some good instincts and he can tackle. Really, truly, the main thing that I really like about him, though, is definitely his instincts, being able to put whatever he's got to put in between the ball and the player to make the play not happen. This play right here, I think the receiver was a little bit spooked with him right there at him. The ball comes through, as you see, boom, that hand is right there. See his hand? Porter is right there on top of him. Now, when the ball comes through here, you can see it goes right through the guy's hands, but that's because he's a little bit spooked because Porter's on his back. But Porter's hands already are on the ball right there, y'all. And, as you see the play progress, he wasn't able to make that play whatsoever. Porter comes in and does his job. That's what you want to see. Everybody wants to see ball hawk skills and see interceptions. And that's something that I was keyed in on this guy, seeing that he had no interceptions last year, and he only had one interception the year before. So I was kind of wondering what was going on there, and it didn't take me long to figure out it's because the opposing quarterbacks are trying to stay away from him. But if you watch this right here, you see the original play is a crosser, and the quarterback's trying to throw out to the left, and Porter comes down and actually jumps the route, which I love to see. But I really wonder if his instincts are telling him right now to bat the ball and not intercept it. I think that's something that they need to coach up with him maybe. I'm not 100% certain yet. I'm going to have to see more out of him, as time progresses, to see if this is something that can be corrected or if this is just something that's just happening right now because he's trying to bat the ball. Who knows? But that's what you want your corners to do. You would like them, to tuck that in, and because that's a pick six right there. There's nobody in between him and the goal line. That's definitely 6 points. Watch it from the other angle. Yeah, I mean, there's just nobody there. Like, he would have taken that for 6 points. I just believe his ability to get in between the ball and the quarterback is really up there. It's at an elite level, I think. If he had interceptions, there would be no questioning if he was elite or not. That's really the only thing that's holding this kid back from being a lower first round pick to being an upper first round pick. Everybody always talks about how good this kid is in press coverage. Here he's playing a little off, and he still makes the play, which is something I like to see, is him being able to play out in coverage and still get in between the ball and the player. And if you watch it from this direction, you get a little bit of better, view of how he's actually able to come in and stop that play from happening, which I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to see a guy like that on our team on Sundays. That's what you want to see. Great length. His arms are just, I mean, good Lord, those are some long friggin' arms, and they're able to get in there on just about every play that he's anywhere near. May not be able to see it, but his hands are there, y'all. See that? One thing I noticed after I started looking a little deeper into his film was that some teams found ways to get around him. A lot of quarterbacks did not like to target him, so they would do things like, through screen passes or try to pick him out of the play or whatever the case may be. This play right here is just one example of that. Michigan actually did this a couple times during that game, and as you see, he was kind of pick/screened out of that play, and they were able to get their first down out of that, or not quite a first down. Penn State actually has a really good secondary on the back end back there, in my opinion. But as you see, this is something that teams did to him to try to keep him away from making a tackle, because he is good at tackling, the ball carrier. Another example here, in between the quarterback and the receiver, and he makes the batted pass. And that Purdue game there, he had, I believe it was 6 passes defended or batted away, whatever you want to call them. And that was a Penn State record, 6 batted passes in one game. That was a record. Now, I want to make sure I pinpoint this play right here, just so you guys can see that, he's not a wuss. He doesn't like to just play off ball and not tackle or not make any hits. Or, some people might have kind of painted the picture that he was more of a finesse type player. I see this kid as all over the board kind of player, and I think his dad would have loved that hit right there. Showing grittiness, slipping in between 2 blockers and making that play. The guy on the edge there really missed that block altogether, that wide receiver there for Ohio State. But wow, I mean, that's what you want, as I said before, out of your open field tackling DBs. You don't want a guy that's going to fall to the ground. Most DBs go for the ankles, or most DBs try to avoid the hit. I remember D Hall made a life out of trying to avoid the hit. Joey Porter Jr. is not going to be ever, confused with having that way of thinking in football. Again, another example. Nice little crosser. He comes right on with them, gets in between, bats the ball away. I mean, this is what this guy does. This is his thing. And another one. I mean, I love to see that long arm come up and just bat that ball away. That's just, to me, that's perfect. I love to see that. Now, this play right here on the surface, some people might say, oh, man, he could have had an interception here. What in the world? Why is this kid not picking the ball off? I look at this play and see, they do a switch there in the secondary on the back end, and he jumps down and almost successfully jumps that route of the other receiver, which to me, his instincts are off the chart right there. Look at that. I mean, he almost ends up with that pick. Yeah, the receiver ends up with it. You watch it from the other direction. Yeah, the receiver ends up with the ball at the end of the play. But how do you not look at that and say, wow, the instincts on that were unreal. Like, I feel like you put him in more and more situations, and more, experience he gets, the more and more you're going to see plays like that happen, and the more and more you're going to see the ball fall into his hands. You know, there's a reason why DBs don't become receivers. They don't have the ball skills that the receivers do, but at the same time, this is something that you can hone in on. You might not be able to fully teach it. You can hone in on it though. I mean, I just think that's beautiful. The only thing he could have done any better there was obviously pull the interception down. Still made the tackle too, by the way. I see this guy as a playmaker waiting to happen. Now, this particular turnover right here fell right into his hands. I mean, he still was able to do his job and fall on the ball and recover it. But I see this kid as a playmaker, you know, in a turnover for our team or whatever team he goes to, waiting to happen. You know, sometimes people say, oh, well, you know, he's a little too handsy. I don't really want a guy that's going to get a whole bunch of penalties or whatever. And I get that, you know, like you don't necessarily want a whole bunch of unnecessary penalties that drag the game or whatever. And then sometimes penalties shouldn't be called. But at the same time, sometimes the play is happening to where, you know, another guy, you know, another corner that would have been on that play right there may have been scored on in that play. But Joey Porter was, you know, at the onset of that play, he had it in his mind he was not going to be scored on. And he made sure that number 15 did not make that catch. Now, there was a flag that came out on this play. But if you ask my opinion, man, that's about as close as you can get. The game is kind of tight now with these rules and putting your hands on them. So, you know, it is what it is. But if he had not have done this, I believe this would have been 6 points. Because number 15 for Purdue, his name slips my mind right now, but he was making some pretty good plays in this game. And you could go the whole season, and that guy probably had the best game against Joey that anybody the whole year did. Now watch the footwork and coming off the line right here, these players. You know, a lot of people say they believe Porter has slow feet and it leads to him being behind on the play. But as you see the receiver right here, he actually comes out, tries to make his move, and goes nowhere. And Joey's able to make the play on the ball and knock it down. I believe that he's one of the better press corners that there was in college football last year. And I believe he'll make an immediate impact. You know, maybe not as good as Sauce Gardner was, but he's going to be good in this league, especially the more, you know, reps he sees, the more field time that he actually gets. Now, I've talked about this kid's instincts since I started looking at this tape, but this play right here was something special in my opinion. Purdue was trying to drive down the field with, like, I believe about 8 or 9 seconds left in the game, and they were trying to avoid having to do a big time Hail Mary right here. So what their idea was they were going to run like a little 7 or 8 yard pass. You know, they could end up with 4 or 5 seconds left and a Hail Mary pass from the inside the 50 or whatever, so that they wouldn't have to stretch the field out so much. And Porter saw this in the coverage that they were already going with and decided to jump the route, come up, and defend it. And the play was blown up, as you see. And he knocked the ball away and, again, put his hands on it. And they ended up having to go for, go for the Hail Mary there with 4 seconds left, which the game was over at that point. I can't help myself but be reminded of Pat Surtain by watching Joey Porter Jr.'s tape. I mean, he's athletic. He's got some really good size at 6'2", like 185 or 86, I can't remember. But he gives me that playmaker feel too, you know, that he's fairly good in the open field. I like the way that he puts himself in between, you know, the quarterback and the wide receiver and tries to make a play on the ball. He's got those long ass arms, those long hands. He's able to get them in there and disrupt plays. He's not the fastest guy in the world. I think his 40 was somewhere like 4.47, somewhere in that range. But you have to also remember that at 6'2", you know, these guys' speed, it kind of drops down a little bit. But if he was a receiver and at 6'2", you know, 4.47 speed in the 40, we would be talking about freak status here. Obviously, he's not a receiver, and obviously some of the aspects of his game are still developing. You know, one thing that I saw that I didn't really know how to feel about was the way that he was rotated in and out like every other drive. I realized that Penn State has a lot of good defensive players and several good defensive backs. As a matter of fact, the guy that kept getting put in for him every other series, he wore number 3, was really good as well. But in 275 coverage snaps, Joey Porter Jr. was targeted 30 times, okay? And he allowed 15 catches on those 30 targets for 143 yards. And that includes 51 yards after the catch. No touchdowns. He didn't have any interceptions either, which, as I said before, is a bit of a red flag for a lot of people. But he did have 11 pass breakups. And his opponent passer rating was 63.6, which obviously means that quarterbacks stayed away from him, and when they didn't, they regretted it because he knocked the ball down. But the one red flag that just stood out for me was the way he was rotated, and I feel like maybe Penn State was doing that so he didn't get, exposed against a smaller, shiftier, faster receiver. And that bothers me because at the next level, the NFL, it's not going to be so forgiving as far as like rotating him in and out, so to speak. Once he's a starter on the edge, it's not going to be so much rotation there, But looking at this film, I always try to envision how the player would look like inside of Washington's scheme. And I could easily see Joey Porter Jr. sliding on the outside with Benjamin St-Juste on the other side, and Kendall Fuller playing that Bobby McCain role, that's actually vacant right now. That slot corner and the third safety. Now, obviously, he would have to rotate in between because you got Percy Butler and you got, a couple other guys that could play at corner as well. But could you imagine, having Porter and Benjamin St-Juste on the same defense? I like what I saw out of this kid. I'm wondering, though, what do you guys think? So let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about Joey Porter Jr. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single video. That's all I got for today. Y'all take it easy. Peace.